Shalom Israel, Shalom, Shalom. Brother Naquam, watchman for Israel, coming back at you with these precepts and another cold cut to giving, of course, our honor and our glory to Yahweh. By Shema Mashiach, like Yabushai, double honors to the elect the elders of the house of David. That's been in this truth for decades and decades, patiently waiting and laboring for the second coming of Mashiach Yabushai. A hearty, mighty Shalom to the men of the Lord who are out there in the highways and byways, doing the work of the Most High, pushing His truth, magnifying the ministry, presenting their body as a living sacrifice, and doing all things for the elect's sake, and magnifying the name of Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua. Shalom to those men. Shalom to all of the men that may not be out there on the highways and byways as of yet, but they're working on it. They're getting built up in the spirit. They're praying, they're fasting, they're studying, they're being diligent and abounding in the work of the Lord. Shalom, shalom. Shalom to all of the Akwat out there, the sincere sisters out there, holding it down in the households, reverencing their husbands, being submissive, being diligent, and move it in the spirit of our righteous foremothers. Shalom, shalom. And shalom to everybody tuning in live. HBKN, K-Rock the Don, Eris Aksa, Don Israel, Michelle Y, Nahum Yasha Allah, Blake Toya, Ancients New, Why Don't We, Caleb, We Got Next Israel, T. Sellers, Micah Allah, 12 Yasha Allah, Emily Jones from Egypt to Israel, Daughter of Zion, Eric Smith, Mark Call, right, Central Red or Reed, Salaki, and everybody else tuning in and that will tune in, Lord willing. This is various breakdowns, diverse topics in WFI Torah, right? Again, various breakdowns, diverse topics in WFI Torah. So the Spirit had me going to the Torah, right? I want to go into one of the first 5 books of the Bible, hone in on one of those chapters, and pretty much go into the law. Right, it's imperative that we go into the law. It's imperative that we know the judgment to the Most High, the ordinances, the statutes, and all things that come with it. And also, depending on how the Spirit goes, we may go into prophecy. We may touch on, more current events. We may go into diverse topics. It's all according to the Spirit of Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua. Right? Remember, the Most High said, "There's a spirit in man, and the inspiration of the Almighty giveth them understanding." So, all inspiration to do the work of the Most High goes into the Spirit, man. Right? Well, that word inspiration means to breathe breath into you. So any topic that a man may do or a brother may do, regardless of where he's at, it's all through the Spirit of the Most High. Right? And there are plenty of times where even the apostles, they wanted to travel to particular places, and they would say, and it's written in Acts, now get the account, Lord willing, where it says the Spirit suffered them not, to teach in Asia or to travel to certain places, because, all things are for the Spirit, right? But let me get this in Job chapter 32 and verse 7. It reads, "I said they should speak, and multitude of years should teach wisdom. But there is a spirit in man, and the inspiration of the Almighty giveth them understanding," right? Because you can be old and gray haired and still be a fool. Right, but the Most High has to divinely work with your spirit in order to give you the understanding. So wherever you're at in the scriptures, whether you're in Genesis, whether you're in Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, etc. If you're in the New Testament, if you're in the Apocrypha, right? If you're being fed by the Spirit, it's because of the inspiration of the Almighty, right? That's the Most High breathing breath into you. So we get the word respiratory system or respiration from, or inspire. When people say, "I feel inspired," it doesn't mean they're necessarily influenced by a person's actions. The true essence of that word and origin of that word inspired means to have breath inside of you. That person gives you life. So, a lot of people got to be careful with the words they use. The only true inspiration is from Yahweh Bashmi Yahushua, man. That's why Wisdom of Solomon, the 7th chapter, it speaks about wisdom being more moving than any emotion. And it speaks about wisdom being the breath. Right? Let's get that in Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7. Right, let me make sure the screen is showing. Okay, come, let me get this. Okay, this is Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7 and verse 24. Right? It reads, "For wisdom is more moving than any motion. She passeth and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness. For she is the breath of the power of the Most High, and the pure influence flowing from the glory of the Almighty." Therefore can no undefiled thing fall into her. So wisdom is that breath that's breathed into you that allows you to understand the truth, that allows you to repent, to call upon the name of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. All these things have to be done through the inspiration of the Most High. It's a pure influence flowing from the glory of the Almighty, right? So all things, work according to the spirit and power of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, right? So I wanted to go into this chapter. Let's go to Exodus, the 23rd chapter, right? We used these already for the Monday Night Fire, right? So let's go to the book of Exodus, chapter 23. Now this says sundry laws, right? Sundry means diverse, right? If you look up this word sundry, certain chapters, in the Torah are honing in on specific topics, and certain chapters, they have diverse topics, right? When you read, and I'll give you an example, when you read Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, Leviticus, the 23rd chapter primarily hones in on ceremonial laws, high holy days, the ordinances, how long they are, what season they come in. When you read Numbers, the 28th chapter, or the 29th chapter, rather, it goes into the sacrifices of particular feast days. Leviticus 13, Leviticus 14, Leviticus 15, they all deal with laws of leprosy and or cleanliness, right? And the rights that come with it. So certain chapters are about specific topics. This chapter is about diverse topics. That's what sundry means, right? So this Exodus chapter 23 and 1. Thou shalt not, and why do we have to go over this? Because we have to know the law, right? If we are a nation of people coming back to the Most High, it's very, very important that we know these laws, statutes, and the commandments. If we believe in this truth, right? Let's go to Sirach chapter 32, right? Because this is not Christianity. You can't just say I believe and not keep any law, statutes, and the commandments, man. You have to have faith, and it's really out of grace and mercy of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua at the end of the day. But you have to display particular works to the Most High, right? The Lord said, be diligent to make your calling and election sure. Sirach 32 and 24, he that believeth in the Lord taketh heed to the commandment, and he that trusteth in him shall fare never the worse. So you have to take heed to the commandment. And like we always say, there's more commandments than just wearing your fringes or growing your beard out or not eating pork or shrimp, crab, and lobster or marring your body up and getting tattoos and cuttings in your flesh. Those are simple commandments. You have more commandments that you have to keep because you may be in sin and you may not even know that you're in sin. Right? Let's go to Romans chapter 7 real quick. I'm going to have to open up another blue letter. Right? Let's go to Romans chapter 7. A lot of brothers, we lay that foundation through the Spirit. You get principal building blocks of the law. And when we're out there in the highways and byways, we're not teaching every law and commandment. We kind of give you a starter pack. We give you the dietary law for the most part. We give you, particular laws about your beard or tattoos or, things that our people tend to struggle with more than others or more than other things. I had this precept I was going to. Romans chapter 7. Salak, y'all praise the Yahweh, right? Let's go to Romans chapter 7. Let's get this precept real quick. Romans chapter 7 and verse 7. Right? It reads, what shall we say then? Is the law sin? God forbid. Nay, I had not known sin, but by the law. For I had not known lust, except the law has said, thou shalt not covet. So how would you know the law or know the sins that you're in unless you know the law? All right, that's plain. So you might think that, you're not eating pork. Okay, you're keeping the Shabbat. You may have kept the Passover, but there may be more laws and ordinances that you can keep. And it's captivity, man. Right? So never negate the fact or don't limit yourself to just 3 commandments and 4. If we can keep these in this captivity and you read them and you keep them, man. Hey, there's no excuse. You got people saying, well, you don't have to keep the Passover or Pentecost or the Feast of Tabernacles because we're not in the land, we're not in our homeland. Well, that's an excuse because all throughout the Bible, we can show you plenty of accounts of our forefathers keeping the law outside their homeland. Right? The land was made for us, not us for the land. So wherever we are, we have to keep the law regardless if we're in Jerusalem or if we're in exile. So what shall we say then? Is the law sin? God forbid. Nay, I had not known sin but by the law. For I had not known lust, except the law has said, thou shalt not covet. But sin, taking occasion by the commandment, wrought in me all manner of concupiscence. For without the law, sin was dead. You see that? So what Paul is saying is, Paul was unaware about the judgment from transgression of the law, right? But when he heard of the law, he found out how guilty he was, man. You know, that's what this means. For without the law, sin was dead. I mean, if you don't know the law, you don't know that you're in sin. For I was alive without the law once, but when the commandment came, sin revived and I died. So when these commandments come, what else comes with it? Sin. Because now you find out that you're going off, man. So that's the other side of the coin. Yeah, you get the commandments, but when you hear the commandments, you find out that you're also breaking them. And then you got to repent for those transgressions. So let's go into this chapter, right? So here's particular laws. Exodus chapter 23 and 1. See if we can go through this whole chapter, right? And the time permitted, Lord willing. Thou shalt not raise a false report. Put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous unrighteous witness, right? So raising a false report is essentially saying, hey, this brother committed adultery, right? You are slandering a brother's name. That's a false report, also known as slander, right? The Lord said in Ecclesiastes, the 19th chapter, believe not every tale, for oftentimes it is slander. And you can't raise a false report on someone and say they did something that they did not do, right? This is the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 19 and verse 15. Admonish a friend, for many times it is a slander, and believe not every tale. You see that? So the Lord said, hey, admonish meaning warn the guy, man. You know, you might have to warn the brother, because the brother might be slandering somebody, or they might be slandering your name, man. You know, and the Lord said, believe not every tale. So you can't just believe what anybody say about anybody. A brother say, I saw this guy committing adultery. You can't take that and say, wow, this brother committed adultery, right? That's wicked, man. You have to have 2 or 3 witnesses to be able to justify what anybody is telling you. And you got to hear the cause of the small and the great. It will be evil for you to hear what somebody said about somebody else and there's no witnesses, right? Or you don't give that person the opportunity to be able to actually give their end of the stick, man. Right? Let's get that precept. There's a lot of scriptures that go into that, right? So if a false report is raised, you got to investigate this thing, man. Let's say you hear a false report. We know that you can't raise one, but what if you hear one? How would you know? Can you take everything somebody say and just run with it? No. And you got to investigate. You got to search out diligently the matter. You may have to, hey, who else was there? Right? We need another witness. Let's go to Deuteronomy 19, right? That's what the law speaks of. Out of the mouth of 2 witnesses or out of the mouth of 3 witnesses shall the matter be established, right? Deuteronomy chapter 19 and verse, I'm going to start at 17. Then both the men between the controversy, actually, I'm going to start at 15, right? Here it is, Deuteronomy 19 and 15. One witness shall not rise up against a man for any iniquity or for any sin in any sin that he sinneth, at the mouth of 2 witnesses or at the mouth of 3 witnesses shall the matter be established. So you can't say I saw this brother commit adultery and it's your word against his. It don't work like that, right? Now, if it's y'all 2 on a desert island, whatever case may be, or a certain situations call for a lot, right? But if there is a matter where it doesn't call for a lot to be cast, there's no he say, she say. We believe him because he's been in the truth longer, or we believe this brother because he's taller, or we believe this brother because he's older, or we believe this brother because he's younger. It don't work like that. You can't have one man just bring out a charge on another man. You have to have 2 or 3 witnesses, right? And then you can take in that matter and establish it. If there's not 2 or 3 witnesses, hey, you take it with a grain of salt, man. A lot of brothers come in this truth and they turn this thing into elementary school, man, high school, telephone, and he say, she say, and or I heard what this was, and it turned into gossip and madness, man. Now, the law also speaks about hearing the cause of the small and the great, right? Let's get that real quick. The Lord said, that's why you have to study the law. Yeah, so it's beautiful to go into prophecy. Yeah, you go into the dark sayings and the sentences, but you also have to know the law, right? If you're a king and a priest, you have to be able to judge matters. Judgment and justice have to be enforced based off of the law. They can't be based off of your emotions, right? Your judgments can never be based off of your feelings, man. You have to literally predicate every decision and judgment that you make off of the scriptures. And if it's not based off of the scriptures, then you're walking after the ways of your own heart and you're doing what you want to do, man. Right? I'm going to go to that account, Lord willing, but let me get this first. Right? This is Proverbs 1:1. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom. What else? Justice, judgment, and equity. So these are 3 traits that every man of the Lord should have, man. Right? You should know how to enforce justice. What is justice? Let's pull up the definition, right? Let's see, justice. Let's pull up the actual definition, right? They say just behavior or treatment, fair play, fair mindedness, equity. Yeah, that's what justice is, right? So when something is unbalanced or something is off, it's your job to enforce the right way of life. It's your job to enforce the will of the Most High, what the Most High deems as righteous. That's true justice, righting wrongs, right? So that's what the Most High wants the men of the Lord to have, man, to know how to enforce justice, because you could be in a situation where you don't show any mercy. You can a lot of people let the wicked go free. You don't enforce any justice, man. You let people say anything. People are being oppressed and they're in the wrong, and you don't execute the law. And judgment. Judgment is what? Decisions. That's all judgment is. It's a decision making. But your decision making has to be based off of the precept. It has to be based off, and yes, the precepts matter, right? They have to be based off of the scriptures, and they have to be used with discernment, So your judgment has to have discernment, and has to be based off of the scriptures. And all this comes with knowing the law. Because when it's time to lay the judgment down, it got to be according to thus said Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. And equity. So equity is when things are out of order, when things are unstable, and there's all types of confusion. You come on the scene and you enforce equity. And you right wrongs, you even out the playing field according to the precepts, man. Right? This brother might have stolen 10 oxen. You go in the law and say, well, according to the law, you have to be able to give this brother X amount of your oxen. If you can't do it, you're sold for your theft. And you kind of make it even because his brother was wrong. And his brother had oxen, so you kind of even it out. And his brother got to give him some of his oxen, man. That's equity. All of that goes into the law. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 1, right? And that's a beautiful spirit. Even Solomon prayed for a discerning heart. Solomon didn't pray for the in-depth breakdowns or a woman, right? He didn't pray for a long life. He didn't pray for riches. He didn't pray for great health. He didn't pray for the death of his enemies, right? He didn't pray to be taller. He didn't pray for the mega millions to Powerball. He prayed for a discerning heart. And the Most High gave him all things that came with that, man. Right? Deuteronomy chapter 1 and verse 17. Salaki, it reads, Ye shall not respect persons in judgment, but ye shall hear the small as well as the great. Ye shall not be afraid of the face of man, for the judgment is the Most High's, and the cause that is too hard for you, bring it unto me, and I will hear it. So you can't respect the person. You can't say, well, this brother, he's taller, he's always right. And this guy's been in the truth, 25 years. He could never do wrong by me. That's a respect the persons. Hey, guess what? If somebody's off, they're off. But a lot of brothers, somebody's off, but you don't want to say nothing about it because you fear a man, right? You fear a position. You may fear a title. It may be money on the line. It may be the love of man. So a lot of brothers, you have a respect the person's attitude when it comes to decision making. And that's a stumbling block. So you can't respect the persons, man. Everybody and all decisions have to be, or all people have to be treated equally when it comes to judgment, right? So there's a lot that goes into the law. You can't take bribes when you're executing judgment. You can't let people flatter you or get in your head, man. You can't be emotional. You can't be drunk. You have to have, kings are level-headed. They're mild-mannered. They have a sense of patience and wisdom, right? And the Most High said also, but ye shall hear hear the small as well as the great, right? So if somebody's raising a false report on somebody, if you want to hear the cause of both parties, man. Because I hear what you're saying, but I want to hear what this person is saying. And the Lord said, he that is first in his cause seemeth just, but his neighbor cometh to searcheth them out, right? Let's see, first in his own cause, right? Let me just get that real quick. Proverbs chapter 18 and 17. He that is first in his own cause seemeth just, but his neighbor cometh to searcheth him. So you got brothers, they'll seem like they're right. They'll be quick to blame somebody, but you have certain people who take that and say, wow, yeah, this brother, he's wicked. That guy, he's off, like the history of Susanna. When you read history of Susanna, which you're not going to read, you had the two judges, they were first in their own cause. They were quick to defend themselves. And it seemed like they was right. They said you did this and a man was with you and, you committed adultery and everybody believed him. But Daniel said, hey, lay these men aside and let me examine them. He said, oh, ye fools of Israel, man, are you not going to examine the truth? Paraphrasing it. Right? Let me get that real quick. So right now we're going into judgment and the law. Right? You have to be able to examine the truth and examine the matter. Right? Let's go to History Susanna. Right? Chapter 1. And all of this is the milk of the word. This is how you grow in this thing, man. You brothers have families, wives, children. You may have a brotherhood. You have to know how to handle matters, man. You can't go to the so-called white man all the time. That's 1 Corinthians chapter 6 and 1. The Lord said, dare any one of you to go to the judges, before the unjust and not before the just. We as a people, we should be able to regulate and govern ourselves through the spirit of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, man, without calling 911, without getting Esau to judge the matter. Because that's what you do, man. In domestic violence situations, or when there's an altercation or somebody stole something, you're quick to call this damn devil. And he comes in and, all right, you be quiet, right? All right, you're resisting arrest. I want to hear what you have to say. You're going to let Esau judge your damn matters, man. We got to be able to have some type of a system set up. And the Most High set it up, man. So if you're in this truth and you still calling Esau to help you resolve or regulate a situation, then your mind is bad, man. Because the Most High gave us the authority to execute judgment. We're gods on the earth. The Lord said also, arise, O God, and judge the earth, for thou shalt inherit all nations. In Psalms chapter 82, man. Right? So this is the book of History Susanna, chapter 1, There's only one chapter. And I'm gonna read verse 48. Right? Actually, I'm gonna start at 46. I'm not gonna read this whole chapter. You read it on your own. These two men, they were stalking Susanna, wicked Canaanites, or Babylonians rather. And or they came from Babylon. I believe there's Canaanites, the seed of Canaan. And they bear false witness on Susanna, said that she committed adultery. Everybody believed them. They about to go stone Susanna. Daniel stands up and says what? Who cried with a loud voice, I am clear from the blood of this woman. And the brother could do that, man. It's like, you know, when they got these weddings and they say, does anybody object? And a guy will stand up and say, I object. They should not be married according to XYZ. Right? And he has to provide ample evidence. And they'll say, okay, look, maybe you shouldn't be married. We just found this tape of the woman doing God knows what. Okay, look, I'm not going to deal with this woman. So you have men like that in the ancient world, and you could do that now. There could be a judgment going on. You say, look, I am clear from the blood of this man, which means you're going to intervene. You have examined the matter, and you see something in the judgment that they don't see. Now, you can't do that in this man's system. Go to the and they got courts, public court cases you could just walk in. People do that, man. These guys are the up-and-coming attorneys, they're up-and-coming lawyers, right? They actually, they spend their time not watching Sports Center and ESPN, and they're not on TikTok or Instagram. They'll go to these courtrooms, man, these courthouses, and they'll take notes. But I tell you one thing you can't do. When a judgment goes down, you can't raise your hand and say, look, I have ample evidence. You shouldn't do this. So the so-called white man, he don't run his system like that. Daniel said, I am clear from the blood of this woman. Then all the people turned them towards him and said, what mean these words that thou hast spoken? So he standing in the midst of them said, are ye such fools, ye sons of Israel, that without examination or knowledge of the truth, ye have condemned a daughter of Israel? You see that? Return again to the place of judgment, but they have borne false witness against her. Right? And that's a tough deal right there, man. Right? You have to examine the knowledge of the truth before judgment is made. So don't let nobody raise a false report without you examining the matter. Okay, when did they say that? Right? Okay, who else was there? Don't be a damn high school freshman, man, or a middle schooler, and you just got that gossip spirit on you. Ooh, really? Wow. I knew that brother was off, man. I can't believe it, man. That sound about right. Ain't no sound about right in this thing, man. You can't have condemnation without examination. Daniel said, return into the place of judgment, but they have borne false witness against her. Right? Let's go to Ecclesiastes, the 11th chapter. Right? Another fundamental precept. We have to examine the matter in all situations, man. A lot of brothers, you're quick to say somebody's in the wrong. You didn't investigate, right? A lot of times there's a situation happening and, you know, you're not being patient when it comes to executing that examination to figure out what really went down. You might have overlooked something. You might have got emotional, right? Ecclesiastes chapter 11 and verse 7. Blame not before thou hast examined the truth. Understand first and then rebuke, right? All of this goes into judgment. And that's a beautiful thing to pray for, to pray that Yahweh Shai gives you the spirit of judgment and discernment, because now you know how to make the right decisions. And things that you think are easy decisions, and you was probably going off, man. But now you have judgment and discernment, and now you're able to foresee evil. You're able to know the scripture to be able to justify your actions, and you could deliver people and yourself out of death, man, with the right judgment. Right? So let's go back to this. So now we know what this is going into. Thou shalt not raise a false report. You can't lie and slander somebody's name. Neither can you take heed and give ear to a false report. You have to have multiple witnesses. The Lord said, put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. So if you got one guy saying, I saw this guy commit adultery, you can't sit there and you know you didn't see it, but you say, yeah, I saw it too. Yeah, he did it. That's an unrighteous witness. Did not they do that to our Lord? Did they not suborn many false witnesses? And their stories didn't even add up, man. And at the last came 2 false witnesses, right? This Matthew chapter, actually, I want 27. No, I want 26, right? Matthew chapter 26 and verse 60. I'm going to start at 59. Now the chief priests and elders and all the council sought false witness against Yahushua to put him to death. And this is an evil thing right here. There's a lot of wickedness on the earth. But, in judgment, there's really nothing more perverted than a false witness who said they saw something that they never saw, who said they heard something that they never heard, who may have taken them back, gotten paid off. They might have gotten emotional. They might not like this guy, man. So you can't be a false witness. So they sought false witness against Yahushua to put him to death, but found none. Yea, though many false witnesses came, yet found they none. Why? Because the stories didn't add up. At the last came 2 false witnesses and said, this fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of the Most High and to build it in 3 days. So they bear false witness, man. Because Yahushua wasn't talking about destroying that temple. So they lied on him. So sometimes there's a false witness if you really investigate, and sometimes you just don't know, man. People are just outright liars. So again, don't raise a false report and don't join the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. A lot of people get swayed by the crowd. That's what the next verse is going into. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil. Neither shalt thou speak in the cause to decline after many to rush judgment. So you can't let peer pressure pervert your judgment. Hey, if something's off, guess what? It's off. Don't follow the masses, man. They all say it's righteous to smoke a cigarette and to say this guy committed evil. Or they might charge this guy. Hey, look, I saw this guy smoking a cigarette at camp. Hey, guess what? You better go to the other side, man, and say, no, he didn't do that. So you can't follow a multitude to do evil. And you can't speak up on behalf of a situation that causes a man to get his judgment perverted. That's what this means. Neither shalt thou speak. So one goes into following the masses, right? Following the evil. Now the next step is now you start speaking to pervert the judgment. Yeah, he did do it because I saw him over there. He looked like he committed adultery. He was with that woman and he left the house. He had red shoes on. I remember. That's wicked, man. That's what it means. Neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline. After many to rest the judgment. The word rest means to twist. So the judgment was righteous, but you followed a whole bunch of wicked men and twisted up the judgment to get this guy put to death. So don't follow. Hey, you got to stand up for righteousness, man, even if it's only you, right? Don't be afraid because of man, right? The Lord said, who will rise up for me against the evildoers? Who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? Because a lot of brothers, that peer pressure get to you, man, even sisters. I don't want to say nothing. I'm kind of scared. I'll just do it and I'll repent later, right? Psalms 94:16. Actually, I'm going to start at 15. But judgment shall return unto righteousness, and all the upright in heart shall follow it. Who will rise up for me against the evildoers? And who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? So somebody got to stand up for the Most High. Everybody can't be a follower of man. Perverting judgment. Everybody's bearing false witness, speaking on matters that they have no understanding of. You may be slandering a brother, slandering a woman. So somebody has to stay, look, I will not follow that multitude. I refuse. And Daniel was in that light, man. Verse 3. Neither shalt thou countenance a poor man in his cause. What does this mean? Right? It means that you can't show favoritism on somebody just because they poor. A lot of brothers, you got a guy that's poor and you let it slide. He might have, stolen something, or he might have, broke the Shabbat, to work on a Sabbath because he kind of down bad, and the brother give you a sob story. Well, I had to work, I had to break the Sabbath because I'm down bad in my rent. And a lot of brothers, they feel bad for that guy. And maybe we let him kind of no, hey, look, this guy break the Sabbath in the ancient world, he put to death. They don't care about the sob story or him being poor. Where in the scripture does it say the poor can get away with sin? Simply because they're poor. So this judgment is heavy. You can't countenance a poor man in his cause, man. He could be just as off as the next man. Verse 4. If thou meet thine enemy's ox or his ass going astray, thou shalt surely bring it back to him again. Right? So ain't no finders keepers. Right? This don't just apply to ox and ass. If you see something that's your brother's, hey, bring it back to him. He might have left his Bible. He might have left, the car keys, a wallet, right? Whatever, man. Ain't no finders keepers. A lot of brothers, you see something, I'm going to give it a day. And if nobody touch it, I'm going to take it. People are stealing lunches out refrigerators, cars, So if you see somebody's ox or ass going astray, you got to bring it back to them again. If thou see the ass of him that hated thee lying under his burden and wouldst forbear to help him, thou shalt surely help with him. So it might be a guy that you don't like, man. Y'all might be at odds. So guess what? You still got to help that guy out. Verse 6. Thou shalt not rest the judgment of thy poor in his cause. And this one, you can't pervert the judgment, right? Because if the poor, if they sincerely are right, and you got to give them that green light, man. You can't say, well, this guy's rich, he can never do wrong, because you're worried about the bag. Don't twist the judgment of the poor. Keep thee far from a false matter, and the innocent and righteous slay thou not, for I will not justify the wicked. And guess what? All of these laws are going to be in our inward parts in the kingdom. And Esau don't keep these laws. When has the so-called white man kept Exodus 23:7? Keep thee far from a false matter. He creates the lies and the deception and the subtle sorceries, man. The Lord said, stay away from a false matter. A lot of brothers, you like to get in too deep, man. You start intermeddling with business that has nothing to do with you. Right? Here's verse 9, Sirach 11:9, and the Apocrypha. Strive not in a matter that concerneth thee not, and sit not in judgment with sinners. So you don't have to get involved in every damn thing. Yeah, two guys talking, and you want to get in there. Wow. And then what happened? Brother, that's none of your damn business. Everything's not your business. It's okay, brother, not to be in a loop with everything. Because the more that you're in a loop with everything, the more you're inclined to fall with everything. That's why verse 10 says, my son, meddle not with many matters. So you can't be in this person's business, then you in this business, now you in this. Next thing you know, you get caught up in that thing, and people start blaming you because your hand is in all these pots. My son, meddle not with many matters, for if thou meddle much, thou shalt not be innocent. And if thou follow after, thou shalt not obtain, neither shalt thou escape by fleeing. Right? So, brothers, don't be a busybody. Everything's not your business, man. You don't have to, I got to get the tea. Oh, man, what happened? And then what happened? Hey, leave it alone, man. Mind your damn business. A lot of brothers can't mind their business. You want to just figure out what's going on in this brother life. What's going on in this sister life, man. That's nothing to do with you, right? So keep far from a false matter, and the innocent and the righteous slay thou not, for I would not justify the wicked. And thou shalt take no gift, for the gift blindeth the wise and perverteth the words of the righteous. Right, let's go to Sirach 20 and 29. right? So no taking gifts, no being a brother to be able to, people can pay you off. And now you act like there's no judgment that needs to be laid out. So they do that in the court system. These lawyers, they pay the judges off. You got guys that pay refs off in sports. You got guys that pay police off. You got women that freak off with the police to get out of a speeding ticket. So now their judgment, they're supposed to get it, write this person a fine or arrest this person, but they took a gift. They dealing with a woman. And a brother, they'll try to spoil you with gifts. They'll over compliment you. They'll buy you things to give you free stuff. Hey, Ak, this on me. That's on me, Ak. No, you don't got to pay for nothing. That's on me. You got to watch your brother that's always trying to give you free stuff. Or money, man. You mark that brother. You may not say nothing out loud, but you mark that guy. You take note of that guy. Say, this guy always trying to give me money. What's up? This guy eventually going to ask for something. He's trying to pervert my mind. Right? They're always complimenting me, gassing me up. What do you want? Right? What does this person really want? So you have to have that discernment. So no taking gifts. Ecclesiastes 20 and 29. Presents and gifts blind the eyes of the wise and stop up his mouth that he cannot reprove. And that's a fearful thing. Where you see a brother, murdering somebody in cold blood, but you don't say nothing because the murderer was paying you off. He was buying you a new car. Maybe he was buying you, a house. This guy who's paying your bills and your rent. He got you a nice job. So no matter what this guy does, you don't want to say nothing about it because you don't want to miss out on those gifts, man. You got women in the world, their husbands are drug dealers. Their husbands are murderers. But they don't say nothing. They don't get on those guys or say, hey, look, you're going off. Maybe we shouldn't do that. Because they get these gifts, man. They're getting Birkin bags, Louis Vuitton, red bottoms, right? The expensive weave. They getting all of these goodies, man. You got these old Eves dealing with what they call sugar daddies now. I saw this video of this old Edomite. He had to be about 99. Dealing with this Eve, she was probably like 26. And this guy, look, he's paying everything for her, man. He's flying her out. She's on a yacht. She's somewhere overseas, eating the best food, wearing the best clothes. But guess what, man? You can't tell her nothing. You try to tell her that's wrong, she'll cuss you out before the so-called white man because of these gifts. Right? So be careful about taking gifts, man. There's nothing wrong with getting a gift if it's sincere. A brother might say, hey, look, Ak, I was thinking about you. Hey, look, Ak, I know you was down bad. Look, hold on to that for me. He might give you 20. Hey, hold on to that, Ak. And then you kind of, hey, look, it is what it is. But, you got to watch out for that excess, man, because a brother, they'll try to play on your mind. And they got something lined up. They want to do something 5 months from now, but between now and those 5 months, they're going to butter you up with gifts. Right? Let's read on. Also, thou shalt not oppress a stranger, but ye know the heart of a stranger, seeing ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. So you had two types of strangers, right? You had Israelite strangers, and you had actual heathen strangers by blood. So if you were an Israelite coming from the land of Reuben or coming from the land of the half tribe of Manasseh, and you came to the land of Simeon or the land of Judah, you would be a stranger because you're not necessarily from that land. You may not speak that dialect that we speak, right? There are certain customs that they may do in Judah that they may not really do in the land of Reuben. So you can't really look down at these strangers. A lot of guys, they became strangers. They were poor. They were exiled. They were cut off. Right, let's go to Leviticus 25. Leviticus chapter 25 and 35. And if thy brother be waxen poor and fallen in decay with thee, then thou shalt relieve him. Yea, though he be a stranger or a sojourner, that he may live with thee. So if brothers wax poor and they're traveling and looking for work or land to work, the Lord said you have to relieve him, even though he's a stranger. And that's who? Your brother. So your brother can indeed be a stranger. And the word stranger is really relative to the situation, to the situation at hand. Okay, verse 10. Let's see how much time I got. And 6 years thou shalt sow thy land, and shalt gather the fruits thereof. But the 7th year thou shalt let it rest and lie still, that the poor of thy people may eat, and what they leave the beasts of the field shall eat. And like manner thou shalt deal with thy vineyard and with thy olive yard. And guess what? Esau doesn't keep this. This is one of the major laws that's not being enforced that shows why the earth is out of order. Don't you know there's a reason why certain crops don't grow? Why there's GMO, Monsanto, why the soil can't seem to provide enough nutrients? Why there's a fertilizer shortage, and why crops don't grow how they used to grow? Because the so-called white man doesn't keep a land Sabbath. You have your weekly Shabbat, and then you have a land Shabbat, a Shabbat for the land. And then you have a Shabbat for work, for employment, because you have the year of release. So you got the year of release for an employment, right? And then you have the land Sabbath. Because what happens when you let the land rest? If you don't let the land rest, you overwork it. If you overwork it, you burn it out. So soil naturally produces, let's see, elements found in soil. I believe nitrogen, right, is one of them. Other elements. Let's see, Salaki, let me type this in. And if you overwork anything, a car, man, it'll burn out, man. Look at this. Soil is a major source of nutrients needed by plants for growth. The 3 main nutrients are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Together, they make up the trio known as NPK. Other important nutrients are calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. So the soil has to work to issue out and excrete, for lack of better terms, these elements. But if you're overworking it, it becomes weaker and weaker. The amount of nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, those are the names Esau called them, but they become weaker and weaker and weaker. And that's why plants don't grow how they used to grow, because the so-called white man doesn't give it a chance to rest. Now, who used to keep the land Sabbath? Gad. The Gadites and the Reubenites, they kept the land Sabbath, and they would travel from place to place, man. They would till this land for 6 years. 7th year, they would let that land rest, and they would go to the next land. Then they might come their way back around and go back to that land, man. So that's called your land, so-called land Sabbath. Now there's a thing also called crop rotation, right? Which is similar. So the action of rotate, it's like I want crop rotation. Crop rotation is the practice of growing a series of different types of crops in the same area across a sequence of growing seasons, right? So you might grow tomatoes there for 5 years, and then the next year, the nutrients that make those tomatoes are going to rest. And then you may grow squash. So you got different nutrients used to grow the squash. So you constantly keep that soil, fresh. And I guarantee there's not one Edomite. Now, Edomite could say, well, look, here's a video. Here's me keeping the land Sabbath. But I don't see it happen. I don't see Esau talking about the land Sabbath, but they want to talk about climate change. They want to talk about greenhouse gases. They want to talk about fossil fuels and carbon monoxide and the temperature raising and the ice walls melting and glaciers. And they want to talk about madness, man. But they don't want to talk about the laws of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua and why the earth is truly out of order, because there are laws that deal with the land, laws that deal with beasts, laws that deal with your brother, laws that deal with the heathen. Of course, the laws how to serve the Most High, right? So let's go back to this. Okay, Exodus chapter 23. And 11 again. But the 7th year thou shalt let it rest and lie still, that the poor of thy people may eat, and what they leave the beast of the field shall eat. In like manner thou shalt deal with thy vineyard and with thy olive yard. You see that? So now the poor, the people, they got a chance to eat, man. They don't have to work. You had these guys wait until that 7th year, and everybody could eat back then. There was no homeless shelters. If I didn't have food and his brother had food in his yard, hey, guess what I can do? I can actually go in his yard and get that food. I just can't put it in the vessel to save it. I got to kind of eat while I'm there, and I got to keep it moving. Right? Exodus chapter 23 and 12. Right? We know the Shabbat. 6 days shalt thou do thy work, and on the 7th day thou shalt rest, that thine ox and thine ass may rest, and the son of thy handmaid and the stranger may be refreshed. So your animals get to rest. The land has to rest. Everything has to rest. If your computer runs 24/7, it'll burn out. If you keep your phone overcharged, then it'll get slower. Everything has to rest. Verse 13. And all things that I have said unto you, be circumspect, and make no mention of the name of other gods, neither let it be heard out of thy mouth. So when you're calling upon these so-called Greek gods, Muslim gods, Chinese gods, hey, guess what? That's off. You know, in this captivity, the days of the week are named after so-called gods. You know, so that's why we say this devil wants you to get drunk. Because when you look it up, literally Monday, I'm not sure every day, but I believe maybe 5, 6 of the days are named after Roman customs or Roman gods. So you're constantly calling upon these gods when you say these days throughout the week. Does that mean you're worshiping them and you serve them? No. Right? Verse 14. 3 times thou shalt keep a feast unto me in the year. Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded thee, at the time appointed of the month of Bib. Now, Bib means green corn, right? Because during that time of the spring, there's a lot of greenery coming back on the earth. The snow is melting, trees are beginning to bud, flowers are beginning to bloom. So you see that them dragonflies, bumblebees out, butterflies, that's a Bib. Now, the first month, which is a Bib, you have to keep the feast of unleavened bread, right? Then you had around, a few months after, 70 weeks, 7 weeks, 7 weeks. You had to count, which is 49 days plus 1, which is 50 days. After the week of the Passover, you had your Feast of Weeks, and you had to go to Jerusalem. Then in the 7th month, the 15th day of the 7th month, was the Feast of Tabernacles, and you have to go to Jerusalem for that. I'm about to tell you that, right? At the Feast of Harvest, the first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in thy field, and the Feast of Ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in thy labors out of thy field. So you got the Feast of Harvest, the first fruits, and the Feast of Ingathering. These are alternative names. This is your Feast of Weeks. Your Feast of Harvest is also called your Pentecost, the first fruits of thy labors, and then you have the Feast of Ingathering. The Feast of Ingathering is what? The Feast of Tabernacles. Why is it called the Feast of Ingathering? Because during that time, you're gathering in all of your crops to hold you over for the wintertime, right? So the Feast of Ingathering, remember, a lot of our holy days are predicated on agricultural practices, right? They're not just vain like the so-called white man's days. These days, when you're eating and rejoicing, it's about the labor and the work of Yahweh Bashar that allowed these crops to flourish, right? Even in 1 Corinthians 3 and 6, it says Apollos watered, or I planted, Apollos watered, but the Most High gives the increase, right? Yahweh Bashar gives the increase. So the Feast of Ingathering is your Feast of Tabernacles. And why does it say the end of the year? Even though it's the 7th month, it's still the end of your agricultural year. Your civil year runs from Abib unto a dar, right? A bib unto a dar. Your agricultural year runs from the end of the 7th month, essentially, or the beginning of the year, to the 7th month, right? Verse 17, 3 times in the year, all thy males shall appear before the Lord thy God. We covered that. Thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, neither shall the fat of my sacrifice remain into the morning, right? So these are diverse topics. I'm not going to go into the whole chapter, right? I'm not going to go into, somebody asked, can we post the high holy days? Yeah, we posted the high holy days, right? I may go back into the chapter, but let me believe there was a question or two. Okay, can we post the high holy days? Yeah, we posted them. We could post them again. We'll post them on social media, right? We'll post them on the WFI Instagram page. You'll be able to see the high holy days coming up. You got the new moon coming up. You also, and we'll post those dates, right? You have your destruction of Nicanor, and you have Purim, right? You have 2 days of Purim. So you have these feast days coming up as well. All right. So I want to go back to this. Right, I want to deal with that. Right, like I said, this chapter is only what 33 verses. Right, Exodus chapter 23 and verse. Well, I kind of skipped one. It's like verse 19. The first fruits. Right, so the brother Nahum set the calendar. Right, we'll post that calendar. Like I said, we'll post that on social media. You know, if you got further questions that deal with the calendar, just reach out via the email. Lord willing, and we'll get up with you. So Exodus 23 and 19, we're still dealing with the law. And a lot of these laws you're not going to be able to keep, right? We're dealing with oppressing the stranger. Now, you can keep that to a certain extent. We're dealing with the Sabbath of a land rest, right? We're dealing with these things, traveling to Jerusalem. You won't be able to keep that. The Feast of Harvest, the Feast of Weeks, right? Dealing with the sacrifice with leaven in it. But you know what you do? A lot of brothers, you make excuses because you say, well, we can't keep that. Well, you could keep Exodus 23 and 1 and verse 2 and verse 3 and verse 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and even 9. So you could keep these laws. You don't have to be in the kingdom to keep the law. And that's what this world is about right now. The Lord has given us grace to be diligent and make our calling and election sure. So we can't tap out in this thing, man. Exodus chapter 23 and verse 10. And 6 years, okay, we read that. Salakia. I want verse 19. Okay, I want 19. The first fruits of thy land thou shalt bring into the house of the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not seethe a kid in his mother's milk. So you bring in your first fruits that you grew during your agricultural process. You couldn't eat those things and get greedy. And those things belong to the Most High. Even all those that come out the womb firstborn are sanctified. That's Exodus chapter 13. And that was somewhat transferred to the Levites. So even your crops, the first of your crops that come up, they're dedicated to the Most High. And you can't see the kid in his mother's milk, meaning you can't kill the young while they're still nursing or while they're still breastfeeding and while they're still being supplied the milk from their mother, right? That's what it means. A lot of Muslims say you can't eat a cheeseburger because of this verse, because you got the beef and you got the cheese. It don't work like that, man. It's not what that's talking about. You even have in the book of Exodus, the 22nd chapter, the Lord allows the dams and these different creatures, I believe it's the 22nd chapter, to be with their mother for a certain amount of time, right? And then the Most High kind of take it away. Let's see. I might have to find it. Right? Okay, here, Exodus 22 and 30. Likewise shalt thou do with thine oxen and with thy sheep. 7 days it shall be with this dam and in his mother. On the 8th day thou shalt give it me. See that? So you got to give something up, man, in order to keep these animals to the Most High. And this even goes into the circumcision. 7 days you're with the dam or the mother. The 8th day you give it to the Most High. All right. So let's go back to this. Right. Exodus chapter 23 and 20. Behold, I send an angel before thee to keep thee in the way and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. And we may do a whole separate cold cut on this. Now, really on a deeper level, this goes into the angel of Yahweh's presence. Right. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 63. That's the angel that was sent out. Right. It tells you that. Isaiah chapter 63 and verse 9. And all their affliction he was afflicted, and the angel of his presence saved them. The angel of whose presence? Of Yahweh Bashmiawashai's presence. Right? Saved them. And his love and in his pity, he redeemed them, and he bare them and carried them all the days of old. But they rebelled and vexed his Holy Spirit. Therefore, he was turned to be their enemy, and he fought against them. Right? So you can see right here that Yahweh Bashmiawashai has an angel of their presence. The Lord has an angel. So, when we were out there in the wilderness, that angel goes into the spirit of Yahweh Bashmiawashai manifests as an angel. Right? Because you got to remember that Yahweh dealt directly with our fathers in the wilderness by the hand of the Most High. Right? That's what was going on in the wilderness. And we'll have to do a cold cut on that for another day. But you had a particular angel that was an angel of Yahweh. Right? Let's get that. Like in Revelation, it says, I, Yahweh, have sent my angel unto you to testify of you these things. Right? I believe that's Revelation chapter 22. Right? Let me get this precept real quick. Revelation 22 and 16. I, Yahweh, have sent mine angel. Right? So there's an angel that belongs to the Lord to testify unto you these things of the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David and the bright and morning star. Right? Let's get another precept. Let's go to the book of Numbers, the 12th chapter. Yahweh, the Lord told Moses, in the similitude of the Lord shall he behold. Right? Numbers chapter 12 and verse 6. And he said, hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision and will speak unto him in a dream. So if there's a prophet, the Most High is going to give them dreams and visions. Right? My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all mine house. With him will I speak mouth to mouth, like a man speak to a man in person. That's how the Lord dealt with Moses. Even apparently and not in dark speeches, and the similitude of Yahweh shall he behold. Wherefore then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant Moses. So the Lord dealt, Yahweh dealt directly with Moses. If you got ears to hear. And the Lord said he's going to send his angel. So that's the angel of Yahweh Bashmiawashai. Right? To keep thee in the way and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. So there was an angel driving Joshua, driving Moses, driving them from one place to another, man. And they couldn't see that angel, but they knew about it. Right? The men of the Lord, they knew about that angel. All right. So don't think it was just let me get this account. This is I'll just put this in real quick. In the book of John, I believe it's John, the 5th chapter, John 5, right? Let me get this. Right, we're shooting from the hip with this one. You have neither heard his voice, 5 and 20. If I'm not mistaken, 5 and 30 something, right? 5 and 37. Here's Yahweh speaking. And the Father himself, which hath sent me, hath borne witness of me. Listen to what Yahweh said. Ye have neither heard his voice at any time, nor seen his shape. You see that? So a lot of times, a lot of brothers, they see the word Lord, and they see God and they don't have the discernment to know what's going on. You know, a lot of times our forefathers dealt directly with Yahweh Shai. You know, a lot of times in the ancient world, man. So let's go back to this. Exodus chapter 23 and verse 21. Beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. All right. My name is in him. My image. He's coming under my authority. Doesn't mean inside this angel it says the name Yahweh, located in his right arm and his skeleton, you know, or in his spirit. That's not what it means. My name is in him. Okay, now when you think about it too, Yahweh means he exists or he is. And Yahweh Shai means he deliverer, right? So that Yah aspect, which means he is imparted to Yahweh through his son Yahweh Shai and through that creation. So the angels move in the name of the Most High. That's what it means. My name is in him. And Lord willing, we're moving in the name of the Most High. The Lord said our name, his name, Slak, is going to be written in our foreheads in Revelation chapter 22 and 4, right? And they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads. Is that literal? No. It's spiritual. Talking about the Most High's image, his laws, this Holy Spirit. The wisdom is going to be embedded in your mind, and you're going to do it with your right hand. Same thing right here. My name is in him. It's embedded in his spirit, intertwined. But if thou shalt obey his voice, Exodus 23 and 22, and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy unto thy enemies and an adversary to thine adversaries. Right? So where's the Most High loves all his enemies at in this verse? For my angel shall go before thee, right? For my angel, Slakia, bear with me, shall go before thee and bring thee in unto the Amorites and the Hittites and the Perizzites and the Canaanites, the Hittites and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off. And these are all of the nations that Joshua went to war against. And all those men ultimately come out of Canaan. Right? Thou shalt not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do after their works, but thou shalt utterly overthrow them and quite break down their images. So there's no tolerance with the Most High. There's no equal religion. You know, that's what the so-called white man teaches. We have to accept Buddhism. We have to be tolerant of an atheist. We have to, you know, not break down these satanic temples. The so-called white man teaches the same spirit that they taught in ancient Greece. In ancient Rome, amongst the Medes and the Persians, the Babylonians. You had people freaking off and serving multiple gods, man. And bowing down to them. The Most High said, but thou shalt, and we can't do this now. Like I said, certain laws we could keep in this captivity in this land. Certain laws, hey, look, you're going to jail. Defamation of character, arson, armed robbery, burglary, right? Violating people's property, desecration of property. You can't do that now. You can't just go to the White House and, the Statue of Liberty and do God knows what to it, man. And then you go to the Arch in St. Louis and break it down, and then you travel to China and you break that idol. You got to wait on the Most High. Because if you're going to try to break them images down now, and you're going to be thrown under the jail. So Exodus chapter 23 and 25. And remember, the Most High said, even upon the idols of the Gentiles, there should be a visitation. Right, so let's get that. Wisdom of Solomon. Right, chapter 11 and 14. Right, let's get that. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 11 and 14. I want... I want 14. Right? Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon, the 14th chapter. So don't think that the Most High didn't execute judgment on the Egyptians and their gods. Right? The Most High did that, man. When you go deep into those 10 plagues, those plagues actually attack and they oppose each so-called Egyptian god that was set up, for the majority. Now, this Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14 and 11. Therefore, even upon the idols of the Gentiles should there be a visitation, because of the creature of the Most High, they are become an abomination and stumbling block to the souls of men, and a snare to the feet of the unwise. So the Most High is going to break up that statue in Brazil. There's this big, nasty, tall Buddha somewhere in the East. I can't quite remember where it is, but he has, people come and touch his finger. You got these elephant statues in India. You got that nasty, filthy cobblestone in Mecca. The Most High is going to break all these damn images down. And, I want to be one of those men, ultimately that the Most High have mercy on, like us all. But if we make it to the kingdom, I want to be one of those guys to break down the cobblestone if it's not destroyed by the chariots. I want to break down these statues and idols, man. So that's the law right there. We're not supposed to be tolerant. Now, of course, in this captivity, you can't just snatch somebody's magic 8-ball and break it, man. That's what they deal with at the plantation that I'm at. These guys, these top guys, they'll take a black ball, an 8-ball, and they're making decisions, man, for the plantation. These are big time decisions they're making. And I tell you what, these guys take this 8-ball, they shake up this 8-ball, man, and they make every move off the 8-ball. I'll say this, they'll make 65 to 75% off the 8-ball. And that's still too damn much. Now, can I take that 8-ball and break? No, I can't do that. I'm here, man. We in this world. In the world to come, and we better not hear them speak about a 8-ball. So we're supposed to break these images down, man. All these statues with these so-called founding fathers. You got statues with George Washington on a horse, right? You got statues with Theodore Roosevelt. Let me pull that up. Right? Brother's probably seen that. Slovakia. Theodore Roosevelt statue. And it's a brother. Look at this. It's a Northern Kingdom, more than likely a Gadite or a Reubenite. It could be another one of the so-called northern tribes. Slovakia. And a Judite, man. Look at this. What is this showing? These are these idols. If this isn't proud, I don't know what is. He got a Judite in captivity on the right-hand side, and he got a Gadite on our left side, man. So they don't know who the Israelites are, though. What they're erecting statues like this. You mean to tell me that this system don't know who the Most High's chosen people are? They know without a shadow of a doubt, but they're not going to give you that, man. They're too busy giving you sports and, folly, man. But we're going to break these images down. The days are coming, like the Lord said, one of my favorite precepts in the book of Amos, that the plowman is going to overtake the reaper. Right? Let's get that in the book of Amos, the 9th chapter. Right? This Amos chapter 9 and verse 13. Behold, the days come, said the Lord, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper. Who's the plowman? We're the plowman. We're the guys out there working. You got Issachar picking grapes somewhere in Cali right now for 5 cents an hour, man. You got Jake working in warehouses with pallet jacks and moving. Hey, we're the plowman. Who's the reaper? Esau. So what did the Most High say? Behold, the days come, said the Lord, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper. So here's the plowman, these brothers right here, man. But don't worry, don't fret. Because the plowman is going to take the reaper, man. It reads, and the treader of grapes helm that soweth seed, and the mountain shall drop sweet wine, and all the hills shall melt. So the plowman is getting ready to overtake the reaper. And we're going to start breaking these images down, man, through that spiritual power. Verse 25, and ye shall serve the Lord your God, and he shall bless thy bread and thy water, and I will take sickness away from the midst of thee. You see what the Most High was doing for us? Like, you got diabetes, heart disease, high cholesterol, gout, HIV, you got all types of stuff, man. When the Most High promised he would take these sicknesses away from us. There shall nothing cast their young, nor be barren in the land. The number of thy days I will fulfill. So you're not going to have, dead calves and animals dying off young, and, everything's going to work well, man. And I will send my fear before thee, and will destroy all the people to whom thou shalt come. And I will make all thine enemies to turn their backs unto thee. And I will send hornets before thee, which shall drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, and the Hittite from before thee. So before the Most High sent Israel into the promised land, the Lord sent spirits out there, created for vengeance, chiefly teeth of wild beasts, scorpions, and a sword, manifest through these different hornets, man. The Most High sent actual hornets out there to kill them and to cut them down before Israel entered in there. Somewhat like a for lack of better terms, your forefront army, right? Your scout team. And they were going out there wreaking havoc until the true army came. Verse 29. I will not drive them out before thee in 1 year, lest the land become desolate and the beast multiply against thee. By little and by little I will drive them out before thee, until thou be increased and inherit the land. And that's what the Most High is doing in America. And in the earth, the Most High is cutting the earth off little by little. Earthquake here, earthquake there. Wildfire here, wildfire there. Missiles being dropped here. So by little and by little, this place is going down. And I will set thy bounds from the Red Sea, even into the sea of the Philistines, and from the desert unto the river, for I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and thou shalt drive them out before thee. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor with their gods. So no deals, man. No making deals with the nations. You may say, well, don't we have to sign a lease, and don't we have to buy, we sign our job application off, and is that a covenant? No, that's not what it's talking about. This is talking about denying the Most High and making a deal. Thou shalt dwell in thy land. It's like if they shall not dwell in thy land, lest they make thee sin against me. For if thou serve their gods, it will surely be a snare unto thee. So no making a covenant with these heathen and their gods. And ultimately, that's Exodus the 23rd chapter. Knowing the law is so important for judgment, for discernment, for the knowing how to handle the matter. So we don't have to resort to what we were taught by the so-called white man. We don't have to resort to his folly and to his laws and all the time into his ordinances. Yeah, we live in this man's world, so we got to follow this man's system to a certain extent, right? Meaning his laws and ordinances that don't hinder the gospel. But outside of that, we should be able to regulate and govern ourselves with the law, statutes, and the commandments, man. But with that, it's a quick cold cut. Giving, of course, all honor and glory to Yahweh. By Shema Mashiach, Most High willing, you are edified. Kwam Yashalom. Shalom.